You know something? I have seen a lot of bad movies, but the one I hate the most has got to be Bratz the movie. First of all, to quote the Razzies, it makes High School Musical look like Gone with the Wind. But I also like to say the characters are stereotypes, the songs are some of the worst I've ever heard, and it's based off of an awful line of toys, which is Bratz, which you don't know what it if you don't know judging from the title. And it was overall an unpleasant experience. If you're a fan of Bratz, like if you like Bratz so much, even though I hate Bratz, I can't stop you from seeing this, but everyone else, beware.
My choice would be Series of Unfortunate Events. Now, while I still like this movie, and granted it's probably not the worst movie I've seen, it's just the only one I could think of, I did have issues with it. For example, it does not stay completely true to the source material and felt somewhat rushed since they were trying to fit in the first 3 books into one movie. The play was held in the first book, and in the movie it was at the very end. I can understand time constraints, but I think the play could have been put in with the events of the first book. There was also the train scene, which I felt just didn't fit into the movie since it wasn't in the book. Now compare that scene to the short little scenes with President Snow and the head game maker in the Hunger Games movie. Since that movie actually changed perspective from the book, first to third person, those scenes actually worked since they added to the head game maker's inner conflict of if what he was doing was the right thing or not. Final issue I had was it didn't leave any opening for a sequel. It only gave us the events of the first 3 books, which, considering this is a series of 13 books, is not necessarily a good thing. There were also some plot holes because there was little to no explanation on the telescopes. This is where a continuation of making the series into movies would come in handy, so particular elements can be elaborated on.
March of the Penguins. It was about stupid birds who can't fly that just waddle around and die. Nothing was at all spectacular about that film. I'd rather watch shit grow in the human intestines than watch that movie again.
Michelangelo Antonioni's Red Desert is devoid of anything resembling a good film. The characters aren't interesting, there is barely a story, and the design of the film, both in the sets and the cinematography, is ugly to look at. However, the biggest problem is the cardinal sin no film must commit. It's boring. Drop dead dull and boring for the entire running time. Why is it so boring? Because nothing happens. Even Monica Vitti and Richard Harris looked very bored on set. Give me a story, give me characters, and if you want to go the art route, fine, but make it entertaining at the least. It's not like I don't think Antonioni can make a good film, because I was very impressed by The Passenger, and while plotting, I still admired La Ventura. But Red Desert was just agonizing. Even more perplexing is Criterion giving this a release. They refuse to put any animated films in their collection, but this tripe is worthy? It's like they forget what their mission statement is. So yeah, try to avoid Red Desert. It's a big, dull mess and a massive waste of time.
I would say one of the worst movies I've ever watched would have to be Epic Movie. I know that parody movies can be pretty funny, and I will admit the first 2 scary movies were funny, but the third one was kinda not so funny, and when I saw Epic Movie with a couple of friends, I was not amused at all.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen is A Troll in Central Park. I'm going to have to say, this has to be one of the most sugar-coated movies I have ever seen. There is nothing bad going on, no dark elements, and the fact that it's done by the guy who did The Secret of Nim. So, here is the plot of this movie. The plot centers around a very happy little troll named Stanley, voiced by the late Dom DeLuise, who is just all happy and makes plans with his magic thumb up his ass, who lives in a land where everything must be bad and mean. So the Queen of Trolls, Gnorga, exiles him out of the land for being too friendly. He then ends up in Central Park, where he spends most of his time under a bridge. After that, he meets 2 kids named Rosie and Gus, after they got the house while their parents are away, and then it cuts to some wasted great animation of them doing absolutely nothing but to goof around and going to some kind of weird drug ride. As far as I am watching, it just bores the crap out of me. Nothing really interesting is happening in this movie. The songs in it are shit. Like the song about Gnorga being mean is lame. The song about Stanley having his own dream is ungodly horrible. And the ending song, I feel like I am watching The Apocalypse Rising. If you get the reference, you get a cookie. I guess kids under 4 and 3 might like it, but if you're a fan of Don Bluth's movies, you will despise this movie for the rest of your life.
Alone in the Dark. And I can sum up that awfulness in 2 words. Oovable. Nuff said.
Personally, I think the worst movie I've ever seen in my life was the Super Mario Brothers movie in 1993. I thought it was really bad because the story was really bad and the character designs were awful because when Mario and Luigi went into the Mushroom World or Dinosaur World or whatever, those characters don't look like the characters you've seen from a video game, like the Mushroom Peoples, the Koopas, and the Goombas. The main reason they don't look like anything from a video game. And even Bowser, he doesn't look like Bowser, the giant dragon turtle. He looks more like the new version of Donald Trump. And last but not least, the Mario brothers, they're not brothers. They're more like father and son. And that's why I really hate this movie at all. That's all I have to say.
I would probably have to go with Silent Hill Revelation 3D as one of the worst movies ever. For starters, they didn't take full advantage of the 3D feature, which was pretty disappointing. Secondly, the atmosphere felt cheesy instead of scary. The third, the characters were poorly written and oftentimes out of character. And finally, the poor adaptation of the video games. Not only was the story poorly handled, but some characters who died in the games were still alive, and they cut out one of the more important plots from the game. And they didn't even include some of the best monsters from the games. Overall, this movie was a shameful disgrace of its video game predecessor. If you're a Silent Hill fan like me, then I suggest avoiding this movie. Trust me, you'll be highly disappointed, and you will be in tears.
The worst movie ever has to go to Caddyshack 2. This is how not to do a sequel to a great movie. For starters, the story felt very forced and unneeded. None of the original cast, save for a few cameos, is in this film, and the actors, especially Jackie Mason, did a horrible job. Oh yeah, and it wasn't all that funny. In the end, I found this movie unwatchable, and I would recommend the original Caddyshack instead.
Well, I have returned. Now here is a list of movies I have gathered from what my friends have said, including myself. Baby Geniuses, Wanderlust, Freddy as FR07, 2012, Scream 4, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, The Last Airbender, Suicide Club, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Pulse, When Harry Met Sally, Tales from Earthsea, Bratz the Movie, A Series of Unfortunate Events, March of the Penguins, Red Desert, Epic Movie, A Troll in Central Park, Alone in the Dark, The Super Mario Brothers Movie, Howard the Duck, Silent Hill Revelation 3D, and finally, Caddyshack 2. Anyway, Mr. De Palma, I hope those results satisfied you, and I hope you enjoyed my adventure. However, I don't think all of those choices were enough. For those who are watching this whole time, I'd like you guys to leave a comment. What do you guys think is the worst movie ever? Let me know and I'll be happy to read your results. Until then, this is Danny saying I'm awesome, so are you, and peace.